Okay, so once again, we're doing this on a Sunday. I really wanted to do it yesterday, but I got roped into working all day yesterday. I wasn't planning on that because I've been sick for 2 weeks and remain sick, but I did it anyway for some reason, and now here we are. And once again, I don't know how long my voice is going to hold out, so let's just do this thing. Well, it sounds more or less okay. So, Impact Wrestling from September the 21st. So, this show begins with Johnny Impact coming out all pissed off about what Eli Drake did to him last week. Now, I actually like this. Because if the guy beat the shit out of you and you want a piece of him, are you going to calmly wait around for your spot on the run sheet to come up? No. You want to kill this guy. You don't want to wait around. You want to do it right now. So this is exactly what should have started the show. Unfortunately, this was a really tone-deaf segment. Now, the announcers specifically point out that Eli Drake is not there. He's in Mexico as part of this talent exchange thing they're doing with AAA. So that's what they say. He's not here. He's in Mexico. Then, moments later, the very first thing out of Johnny Impact's mouth is, I want Eli Drake. I know he's in the building. I want him out here so I can face him in a match right now, goddammit. So right out of the gate, he's coming off like an idiot. Because no one even bothered to tell him that Eli Drake is hundreds of miles away on official Impact business in another country. So instead, Big KM comes out and he says it again. Dude, Eli Drake's not here. And Johnny's like, bullshit! I saw his car outside. He's just too afraid to come out and face me. And this is where it got really awkward because this is a line that your typical heel would use to make himself sound tough when he knows that the babyface is not there, isn't in the building, is somewhere else and can't come out to challenge him. Except Johnny is the babyface. And he's saying this stuff about Eli Drake that we know is not true because Eli is off representing the company as the world champion for AAA in Mexico right now. So when Johnny insists that Eli Drake is at the Impact Zone, but he pissed his pants when he heard Johnny was looking for him, it doesn't make Eli look bad. It just makes Johnny sound like a jackass. You know what Eli Drake would say if he could see you right now, Johnny? Tonto, see! Tonto, see! Tonto, see! Ironically, Eli Drake actually cut a similar promo later in the night from the AAA auditorium in Mexico. Hey, Johnny Impact, I came to your home turf to defend my title and you're not here. But because Eli's not saying blatant lies or anything that comes off as, or anything that makes him look stupid, basically, he ends up striking the right note and comes off as the more likable person, much more likable than Johnny, despite technically being the heel in this situation. But back to Johnny Impact. The whole thing is made even worse when KM does the "Are you calling me a liar?" bit, because we know that KM is actually telling the truth this time. The only one who doesn't know it is Johnny Impact. Now, why on earth the writers would put him in a position like this where he just ends up looking like a complete fool, I can't imagine. But oh my god, did this segment backfire on him. Strangely enough, the one who came out of this looking like he actually knows what's up was KM. The guy whose whole gimmick is lying about everything. And incidentally, did you hear all the heat from the crowd that KM was getting? Did you see the reaction he got? They need to start pushing this fucking guy. They're seriously missing the boat on KM right now. So anyway, he finally manages to convince Johnny Impact that Eli Drake is not coming out. So instead, he's like, hey, instead of Eli Drake, well, I'm here, so why don't you put your number one contendership on the line and we can have a match? And then Johnny Impact just does it. He's got this guaranteed world title shot and he just puts it on a line for no reason. I hate when wrestlers do this. If you've got a guaranteed, contractually obligated opportunity at the World Championship, why are you risking it? Why are you putting it up for grabs under any circumstances? Especially if you're not getting anything in return. This This is so stupid. It never makes any sense when they do this. But anyway, yeah, he puts his number one contendership on the line, and he wins in pretty short order. Good for Johnny Impact, not so good for KM. KM deserves better than this, man. They need to get behind this guy. I'm sorry. There is money to be made with KM. But at least he got his face on the show. Anywho, moving on. Time for the Knockouts to get their requisite one segment of the week. Last week, we saw Taya Valkyrie quickly squash Amber Nova, and this week we see Taya Valkyrie quickly squash Ava Story. But surprisingly, they actually gave the women a little more this time. Taya cuts a post-match promo. You know, I want the Knockouts Championship, don't waste my time, blah, blah, blah. Rosemary comes out, and they have the confrontation that they should have fucking had last week. And the announcers actually take care to treat this with a little gravitas. They hype it up like these two are on a collision course, and it's going to be a big deal when they finally have a match. Okay, now you're actually trying. Thank you. So Rosemary and Taya start fighting, and then they do that thing where people start coming out to overwhelm the faces one by one, and then they come out one by one to let's outnumber the faces, and now let's send someone else out to even the odds. So we get Sienna and Allie and Taryn and Gail all out there. It's pretty basic in how it's put together, but I mean, hey, it worked. The crowd was popping in all the right places, and they finally managed to do something with all their main knockout players, even if it was just lazily throwing them all in the ring at the same time. I'm still not sure what the plan for the title is, but we now have confirmation that Taya Rosemary is officially a thing, so we've got that to go on at least. And the girls are still really lacking for screen time overall, but they got a bit more attention than they've been getting lately here, and that's worth mentioning. So then we go back to Tijuana, and OVE have decided that they're not leaving until they get a fair shot at the tag team titles. So they decide to go to the strip club or that Conan runs or owns or something. And then later on, Homicide has let Conan in on this, and in a separate video. And so Conan decides to give OVE access to the titty bar, which is actually kind of nice of him. Not sure why he would do that. And then LAX come in, and they start, like, you know, getting in each other's faces and whatever, and then they decide, okay, let's have a match next week for the tag team titles. Okay, again, that was nice of LAX to do that when they were under no obligation to do it. Kind of odd, really. But, you know, again, I like the way these videos are produced. They're very pretty to look at. So that's our tag title match for Victory Road. Presumably, that one will happen in the Impact Zone, but I'm not sure. So after this, we get a Grado video package. So he got somehow he has received an itinerary from Park and Park. You know, Park and Park, the imaginary law firm that only exists in the mind of Abyss. Yeah, he got an itinerary from them somehow. And so he's doing all this stuff for them, and he's wrestling on an indie show, and it's all completely asinine and idiotic. But the silver lining is, as long as he's doing stuff on this itinerary and performing on indie shows, that means he can't be in the Impact Zone and can't appear on Impact in person. And that puts a smile on my face. And then we go to Jeff Jarrett's latest effort to shove AAA down our throats, whether we like it or not. And here is another perfect example of how incredibly lazy these writers are becoming. Now, last week, EC3 beats Phantasma, gets attacked by Pagano for some reason, whoever the hell he is, and then gets saved by Eddie Edwards, despite him and Eddie Edwards not having nothing to do with each other. This week, all this stuff really needed a promo segment to explain what's going on. At the very least, they needed to give EC3 some mic time so he could try to make sense of who the hell Pagano is, why he attacked EC3, and why Eddie helped him out from seemingly out of nowhere. Because right now, you got a whole lot of stuff happening, but there's no context for any of it. Now, you could provide that context with a well-thought-out promo, but fuck that noise, because a promo would require the writers to actually do their job and write something. So instead, we just have a tag match that explains nothing about any of this, only to have EC3 and Eddie Edwards lose when another fucking AAA guy shows up. Guys, writers, please, cool it with this already. I mean, it looks like these assholes are being thrown into some kind of quasi-invasion angle, but the writers have not bothered to explain anything about who they are, what they're doing here, or what they want. Pagano just showed up to attack EC3 last week, and before you even tell us a fucking thing about him, another guy shows up, so now you got 3 of them, but not a single one of them mean anything. I mean, they're all blank slates. You might as well just call them generic AAA guy number 1, 2, and 3. So the AAA people beat down EC3 and Eddie Edwards. What the fuck happened to EC3 being a heel? Until James Storm, of all people, makes the save. He didn't lift a finger to help Moose out last week when Moose was getting attacked by American Top Team, who James Storm had been shown to have a beef with backstage. But no, he'll show up to fight a bunch of guys that he's had nothing to do with, to help out the man who put him out of action for months with a concussion. I'm sure that made sense to somebody backstage, but didn't make any sense to me. Why is James Storm helping EC3? Remember Slammiversary? And for crying out loud, if I'm James Storm, I'm going to sit back, relax, toss a cold one back, and laugh my ass off as EC3 gets the shit kicked out of him. Do you think this angle will get a promo segment now? Because it kind of needs one, writers. And seriously, let's get EC3 some fucking mic time already, so at least he can try to explain some of this, since the writers don't seem interested in doing that. Speaking of James Storm, man, he got rid of those AAA guys so easily it was downright comical. He didn't even have to put his beard down. I mean, the first 2 guys just took turns running at him so he could quickly escort them through the ropes. And then the third guy just sort of teleported out of the ring somehow. I don't know what happened there. So, later on, Johnny Impact confronts these people backstage. And, he's still looking for Eli Drake. And for some reason, he thinks they know where he is. And, generic AAA guy number 3 tells him that Eli Drake isn't there. So once again, he's just not accepting this. Even though we've seen video from Eli Drake in Mexico, he still doesn't believe it. And he doesn't like Johnny. Random AAA guy number 3 does. He doesn't like him. So Johnny decides, what the hell? I'm going to put my number 1 contendership for the world title on the line again. When I don't have to. Again. Why? Because random AAA guy number 3 doesn't like him. That's all it takes. Once again, Johnny Impact looks like a complete and utter moron. I don't know why on earth they would have him do this stuff. I don't get it. I don't get it. And it's at this point in the show where we have another one of those massive blocks that is nothing but video packages. Even though they tried this, I think 2 weeks ago, and it coincided with a pretty serious drop in viewership. No, now they're going to do it again. It's one of the downsides of taping TV so far in advance. When you need to course correct, you really can't. You're kind of stuck with what you have. So we get a Petey Williams video package. He's talking about how he's getting an X Division title shot at Victory Road. So he's already somehow been installed as the number 1 contender. Didn't have to win a number 1 contendership match or a qualifier or anything. No, he's already the number 1 contender. So Sanjay, the former X Division champion, mind you, is not even getting a rematch. They're just immediately moving on from him. Kind of says all you need to know about how the writers felt about Sanjay's X Division title run. Kind of feel bad for him, but, well, let's be honest, we all pretty much saw this coming. And, Here is something interesting. They actually did manage to fit a match in between all these videos. Unfortunately, it was Mahabali Shera versus Congo Kong. Because someone backstage thought it was necessary that we see this. Okay. So then we get we get a video of Eli Drake in Mexico. Once again proving that despite what Johnny Impact would have us believe, Eli Drake is in fact in Mexico on official business. And he's talking about Johnny Impact. Hey Johnny, I'm in your home turf. I'm defending my title. Where are you? Back in the Impact Zone looking like a jackass? Good. Another great promo from the world champion. And then we have a Moose video package where he's talking all about Lashley and American Top Team. And he's talking about also being a two-sport athlete just like Lashley is, and he's going to drag Lashley back to the ring to finish this. Funnily enough, it was almost lost on me that this feud between Moose and Lashley was that much of a thing. I mean, if you look back over the last couple weeks and watch carefully, there are interactions between that point at a subtle rivalry brewing, but it's been so overshadowed by this American Top Team shit that anything between Lashley and Moose feels completely secondary right now because American Top Team was always front and center, was always the focus, instead of being in a supporting role intended to enhance Lashley versus Moose, which is what it fucking should have been. Instead, you got American Top Team hogging all the attention. So I'm actually kind of surprised when Moose says, oh yeah, me and Lashley, this is a thing that we need to settle. I was actually kind of surprised to hear that. I was like, it is? I mean, the buildup was so subtle that I would not blame anyone for not even noticing. But no, because American Top Team, they were far more important. Far more important that we focus all our attention on them. Now, why are we still talking about this? Okay, there was this big hubbub about Lashley leaving the company last week. Well, if he left the company and Cornette can't stand all those American Top Team thugs as much as he claimed, then why are we devoting more screen time to talking about them now that they're finally gone? It makes no sense. Just like the rest of this stupid angle has made no sense. If you don't like these guys, if you were so frustrated with Lashley that you granted him his release just to get rid of them, why are you devoting more time on the show to talking about him? Just forget the fucking guy exists. Now, naturally, we can't forget about him because it's just an angle and Lashley hasn't really gone anywhere. But from a kayfabe perspective, this is just stupid. And then we have Johnny Impact versus random AAA guy number 3 for Johnny's number 1 contendership that he put on the line for no reason again. Because with no American Top Team appearing in person this week, they just doubled up on the AAA guys. Good match. Johnny wins. That's about it. So he puts his title shot on the line like an idiot and then faces no repercussions for it. Because. And it's at this point that all these AAA guys getting spots on the show is really starting to feel overdone to me. I mean, this match, for example, this would have been a great spot for somebody like a Matt Sydal. You know, Matt Sydal, that guy who was getting a quasi-main event push just a couple of weeks ago, who the company seemed so high on that they gave him a win over Bobby Lashley and a world title shot. Well, he hasn't been seen since. So there's a whole lot of build-up for not a lot of just for him to be forgotten about. And that confuses me because you'd have plenty of room for him to be featured on the show if you weren't devoting so much attention to pimping AAA talent. And why wouldn't you want to focus on a Matt Sydal instead? Because he's far more recognizable to mainstream fans, and he'll still be here 3 months from now, whereas I'm guessing these AAA people will not. So instead of using a guy like Matt Sydal in this spot, who might actually get you somewhere in the long run, you decide to use random AAA guy number 3, who virtually guarantees a limited return on your investment at best. I don't get it. So just before the main event, we check in with Laurel van Ness. And wow. Remember when I said that this storyline wasn't going to get any better? Well, have a look. Instead of LVN standing up for herself and getting revenge on Grado for manipulating her, dumping her, humiliating her, the writers thought it would be a much better idea for LVN to lose her mind again and turn into a crazy woman who dresses like a lunatic and is desperately searching for a husband. And feminism marches on. Jesus Christ. You know, it honestly seems like the writers are trying to humiliate Chelsea Green so much that she just quits and leaves the company. What else could they do to her at this point? I mean, the only way this could get worse for her is if they paired her up with Robbie E. Can the LVN character please get some goddamn respect already? I don't think that's asking for too much. I really don't. Now, for the main event, we do something different here, and by that virtue, it really got my attention. We go over to AAA. I know, just go with it. We go to AAA and we watch Eli Drake defend his world championship on a AAA show against a AAA guy. And unlike that glorified highlight reel that passed for a tag title match last week, we actually get to see the whole match here, which is nice. Now, there were some problems with this. Who is this AAA guy? I don't know. What's his character? I don't know. What did he do to earn a shot at the Impact World title despite not even working for Impact? I don't know. Do these two have any kind of feud or storyline that was set up by the AAA writers? I don't know. What happens if Eli Drake loses here? Do we then lose our world championship? Does the Impact World title move to AAA? Does what's-his-name bring the title to the Impact Zone and defend it there? I don't know. Neither, it seems, does anybody else. That's the problem. There's a potentially interesting concept buried in here, but nothing about it has actually been developed properly or explained to the audience. So you don't know what to think or how to feel about it. And yet, I thought Eli Drake did at least look like a star in this environment. And I do think this did something for him. Now, that said, it sure didn't do this show any favors. And you take your world champion who only has the title in the first place because you called an audible after your first choice shit the bed in his personal life, and you put him in a random match against a random Mexican jobber that you never even bothered to introduce to your damn audience ahead of time, with no storyline support whatsoever, and you make this the main event of your show. Who could possibly expect him to draw eyeballs to the screen in this kind of situation? You just can't book a random match like this and expect the fans to care. Creative has to put in the work. However, I think this was the first time when it kind of sort of clicked for me what they're attempting to do here. Attempting being the operative word. The whole mission statement of Global Force Wrestling, having all these partnerships with other companies, forming this I guess, symbiotic relationship where you can exchange talent and send them to other companies and defend titles in other countries and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's the intent of it, I think. And I sort of got a glimpse of it here. Eli Drake is in front of this big Mexican crowd, and the announcers are talking about how he's got title challengers lining up from companies all over the world, Mexico, Japan, whatever. It actually does make him look like a big deal. And I think I finally saw what they were going for, at least. But it's going to be a rocky road if they want to pull it off and get the fans to accept it. You know, if you looked at the AAA crowd, they just seemed kind of confused. I mean, they looked about as excited to see an Impact guy on their show as I am to see AAA guys on my show. They're like who is this white dude that we've never heard of? And why is he taking up time on our show defending a title that we've never heard of? It's the same deal on Impact. They keep throwing AAA people at us and acting like it's some huge deal, but the meaning is lost on me. I can barely remember what one guy's name is before the next one shows up. Now there's 3 of them forming this quasi-faction, and I just don't care because I don't know anything about them. These people are strangers to me. I don't know what their characters are, what they're doing on Impact, what they're trying to accomplish, or what the purpose of any of this even is. And I suspect the AAA fans feel the same way. I feel like if they want this idea to work, all these companies that have partnered up with Impact need to come together and figure out some way of introducing the wrestlers to the different audiences when they do one of these talent exchange deals, so they actually feel like a star from another company. A really important person from another company, and not just some guy. And Impact has been throwing these people on TV and just expecting us to know who they are because they're from AAA or from Noah or whatever. It doesn't work like that. Casual mainstream audiences don't know who these guys are, and you can't expect them to, just like you can't expect the AAA audience to go nuts because Eli Drake is there. Most of them probably had no idea who he was. I mean, this whole concept is in its infancy right now. And like I said, I think I got a glimpse of what it's intended to be here, but it's going to take a lot of work to figure it out. The big question is, will they be willing to put in that work? Judging by how lazy our writers have been, I'm not sure. I know I criticized this show a lot, and it probably sounds like I didn't like it, but I really didn't feel that badly about it in hindsight. I mean, yeah, it had problems, but they finally gave the Knockouts something decent to work with, LVN notwithstanding. And let us not underestimate the positive impact that American Top Team not appearing on the show can have. So I do think this was an improvement over recent weeks, but seriously, guys, maybe start trying to prioritize your own freaking brand instead of AAA next week. The show's returning next week. Will a comic book post show be coming back? No. A number of people have asked me about this. It's going to turn into something else, and I really wish I had more to tell you at the moment. But I've had a couple setbacks, and there is more information about that coming. I've kind of been dragging my feet on it because I've had a number of things happen, but. It's not gone. It's just going to become something else. Let's see. Can Rosemary and Allie be BFFs? Well, they do have matching shirts now, which I think is just adorable as hell. Rosemary and Allie bunny shirt spirit animal. Haha, so funny. Yeah. How about putting Desmond Xavier on TV instead of Grado or Congo Kong? Yeah. Also, how is Desmond Xavier not the number one contender for the X Division title? I mean, didn't he just win the Super X Cup? You'd think that would at least qualify him for a title shot instead of Petey Williams, who, I mean, what did Petey do to earn a title shot? Nothing, really. So why isn't it Desmond Xavier in this spot? I'm not sure. The Gail Sienna stuff is not interesting at all. Taryn, Rosemary, Allie, and Taya, now that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, there's another case of a person getting a title shot they didn't have to do anything to earn. And Gail just shows up and gets announced as the number one contender. Now, is it by virtue of her being the former champion who had to relinquish the title due to injury? That would make sense if that's the case, but they never said that. So she gets a title shot and she loses thanks to Taryn Terrell. God damn it. Okay. I have to wrap this up pretty soon. Sorry, sorry. A little acid reflux there. So Gail is still going for the title, and yeah, I find that I just don't care about it. So we're putting now we're putting all this focus, rightfully so, on Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie. So that's going to be a feud, and presumably Gail is still going for the title. But I don't even know what the plan is. It's like, is she feuding with Sienna? Is she feuding with Taryn? Is she feuding with both? This is why the knockout's getting so little screen time. Screen time is problematic, because you got to explain these things and sort everything out, figure out who's feuding with who. But they get so little attention that you don't know what's going on. Oh, wow. Do you think Inhumans will be canceled? Well, I don't know. It hasn't even debuted yet. Yeah, the reviews aren't exactly auspicious, but I'll check it out. I mean, it's only going to be an 8-episode run, so if it doesn't get renewed, they can just call it a miniseries and be done with it. Any reaction to the news that the DC CW 4-episode crossover this year is going to center on Barry and Iris's wedding? Jesus Christ. It's only season 4. They're seriously having a wedding in season fucking 4? It's way too early for them to get hitched. You haven't even made the relationship likable yet. It's the most boring thing about the fucking show. If they're smart, the wedding will be a complete disaster. And it will lead to them maybe breaking up for a while, which I think would do both of their characters a world of good. Jesus Christ. Wedding already? God, those idiots. And here I thought the crossover couldn't possibly be worse than Heroes versus Aliens. That Heroes versus Aliens shit was so bad. How do we make it even worse? Center it on Barry and Iris's wedding. Fuck that. Bronze curtain jerked Triple Mania in the shortest match in the card, which is an 8-man tag. He's not even a star in Mexico. Oh, okay. So I'm glad he's getting a world title shot then. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we got all the AAA guys feuding with EC3 and James Storm, and Eddie Edwards, like 3 former world champions. But no, let's send our world champion down to AAA so he can fight a jobber. So everything you suggested about partnerships is what they've done with Crash. We've got 2 long-term Crash guys with steady introductions, and they only film there when it makes sense in the storyline. Yeah, that's Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid, right? Okay. So, see, those guys have worked out. So why can they do it with Crash, but not with AAA? I can't be the only one who ships Allie and Rosemary. Oh, you're not the only one. Shipper number 1, right here. Let's make it happen. Hashtag Team Demon Bunny. You should have a number 1 contendership match for the Knockouts title at Bound for Glory. Rosemary versus Taya versus Allie versus Taryn. All right. That's one idea. I suspect they might, uh, judging by what happened this week, they might want to do Rosemary versus Taya in a singles match. Um, let's see what the hell. What's up with the name changes? Just pick a name and stick with it. Excuse me. Yeah, this is gonna be the last one, guys. What's up with the name changes? Well, they rebranded themselves as GFW, but apparently Jeff Jarrett still owns the rights to the name, and then they sent Jeff Jarrett home to deal with his personal shit. And they realized, well, if he's having some problems and it's not 150% confirmed that he'll be back, then, well, if he leaves, then he takes the GFW name with it, so we can't use it. So let's just take the safer route and call ourselves Impact until he gets his shit together. And yeah, if they didn't own the rights to the name, then rebranding themselves as GFW was fucking idiotic. And I don't know why they did that. And Ed Nordholm really should have known better. But I don't blame him for falling for Jeff Jarrett's bullshit. Because say whatever you want about Jeff Jarrett, but he is a brilliant con man. He could sell icicles to an Eskimo. I mean, somehow he's gotten a lot of people over a lot of years to fall for this stuff. And there's a reason why he's been able to parlay this into the career that he's had, and why he's been able to accomplish so many things. Because he can con people with like the best of them. He really can. Guys, I gotta go. I gotta go take care of this. Thanks for showing up. Not sure if I have to work next Saturday or not. Hopefully I'll be healthy by then. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the questions and comments, and I will talk to you guys in a few days. Later.